You look like you haven't eaten since yesterday. And I mean that as an observation, not a judgment. She said it while pouring his coffee, not looking at him, the specific tact of someone who has noticed something and is offering it sideways rather than head-on. He was sitting at the counter of Heron's Diner on Calloway Street at 7:40 on a Tuesday morning, in a plain gray sweater and dark trousers that were good quality without announcing it. And he had the particular hollowness of a person who has been running on caffeine and obligation and has forgotten that the body eventually submits an invoice. He looked up. She was 26 years old, with dark hair pulled back, and the efficient, unhurried manner of someone who has been doing this long enough to read a table in 30 seconds. She had a coffee pot in one hand and a small notepad in the other, and she was already moving on to the next counter seat with the smooth economy of someone who says things and then gives you the space to decide what to do with them. Yesterday lunch, he said, give or take. She came back. She looked at the menu she had not actually needed to check and said, the eggs and toast is the best thing here. It's also the most honest thing. What you see is what you get. No performance. She paused. You look like you need something honest. He looked at her for a moment. How do you know what I need? I don't, she said. I just know what I'd need if I looked like you look right now. He ordered the eggs and toast. She brought them without fanfare, and they were exactly as described. Simple, well-made, honest. And he ate them with the focus of someone who had forgotten that eating could be this straightforward. His name was Callan Hale, 33 years old. He was the founder and CEO of Hale Holdings, a private investment company with a portfolio valued at several $1 billion. He had walked into Heron's Diner because he had been walking since 5:30 in the morning, and it was the first place with lights on that looked like it had no interest in impressing him. He had not been impressed by anything in a long time. He had been instead performing the daily architecture of a life that had become entirely about its own maintenance. Her name was Sloane Vare. She lived with her mother 3 miles from the diner, worked the morning shift 6 days a week, and was studying for her accounting certification one evening at a time. She was not unhappy. She was specific about the things she found worth caring about, and had made her peace with the things that were outside her current reach. He came back the following Tuesday, and the one after. He always sat at the counter. She always poured his coffee without being asked. The eggs and toast became the standing order, which she put in before he opened his mouth, which he noticed and said nothing about, because there was nothing to say that she didn't already know. They talked in the incremental way of people who are building something carefully, about the neighborhood, about the specific philosophy of a diner that has no pretension, about her accounting studies, and the gap between the certificate and the job, about his belief, stated flatly one Tuesday, that most of the meetings he attended were elaborate performances of decisions that had already been made. She looked at him. Then why do you go? Because stopping would require explaining why, he said. That seems like a lot of effort to avoid one conversation, she said. He was quiet for a moment. You're right, he said. That's the whole problem. She refilled his coffee. Most problems are just conversations people haven't had yet, she said. The eggs help first. Then the conversation. What Sloane did not know, what she learned on a Thursday when her coworker Veda left a news article open on the break room table, was that the man who came in every Tuesday for eggs and toast was Callan Hale of Hale Holdings, whose name appeared in financial news with a regularity that suggested he was not the ordinary Tuesday morning diner regular she had taken him for. She stood in the break room and read the article. Then she went back to her shift and served the next 4 tables with the same even attention she brought to everything, because Veda was watching her face and she was not going to give Veda the satisfaction. She thought about it for the rest of the day. When he came in the following Tuesday, she put his coffee down and looked at him directly. I know who you are, she said quietly. I found out Thursday. He was still. Does it change anything? He said. She thought about it honestly. It changes what I understand about why you come here, she said. It doesn't change anything else. What do you understand, he said. That you needed somewhere that didn't know, she said, and that you kept coming after it became comfortable, which means it stopped being about anonymity and became about something else. She paused. I haven't figured out the something else yet. He looked at his coffee. Neither have I, he said. She nodded. She went to the next table. She came back 20 minutes later and put a plate in front of him that he hadn't ordered. Not the eggs, but a slice of her mother's walnut cake that she had brought from home and that she sometimes gave to regulars on days she thought they needed something extra. My mother made it, she said. She bakes when she's worried about something. We always have too much cake. He looked at the plate. Is she worried about something? Me, Sloane said simply, but the cake is good regardless. It was the best thing he had eaten in a month. He sat with that fact for a while. He came back the following Thursday, not his regular day, which was its own kind of statement. She raised an eyebrow when he sat down. Thursday, she said. I know, he said. She poured his coffee. He put a folder on the counter. She looked at it. My company has an accounting and financial analysis division, he said. We've been trying to fill a junior analyst position for 3 months. The candidates have the credentials and not the instinct. He paused. I think you have the instinct. The certification would give you the credential. He pushed the folder toward her. I'd like to offer you a position that starts when you pass your exam. Proper process. You interview with the division head. But I wanted to ask you first. She looked at the folder, then at him. Why? Because you told me the eggs were honest, he said, and that I needed something honest. And because every Tuesday for 2 months you've been the most direct person I've talked to, which is not a small thing when most of your conversations are performances. He paused. The accounting division needs someone who tells the truth about what they see. You do that naturally. She looked at the folder. At the counter she had been working behind for 3 years. At her mother's cake, which had been offered freely on a Thursday, with no calculation attached. The exam is in 6 weeks, she said. I know, he said. I asked Veda. She looked at him, this man who had come into her diner because he needed somewhere that didn't know him, and who had kept coming because somewhere along the way it had started to feel like the most real part of his week. If I pass, she said. When you pass, he said. She looked at him for a long moment. Outside the diner window, Callaway Street moved in its ordinary Tuesday morning way, and inside, at the counter of the cheapest diner on the block, something that had begun with eggs and honesty was becoming something neither of them had planned, and both of them needed. Feed people honestly. Say the true thing sideways, if that's what they can hear. The diner that asks nothing of you but your presence is sometimes the place where everything starts. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.